Hi, this is Anna Orr with another episode of Community Connections airing on OROMIA11. As always, I am your host, Anna Orr, and today's special guest will be Joy McAfee of Joy the Village Doula. She'll be here talking about her amazing work with mothers across the Twin Cities and beyond. This is going to be an informative episode talking about some very informed topics. This is going to be an episode you won't want to miss. I just want to share a bit of information about postpartum depression and the beginning of this conversation. Hopefully you'll stay tuned. Did you know that postpartum depression affects 1 in 8 new mothers, but the risk is significantly higher for new mothers of color? Notably, while Black women are more likely to have postpartum depression, they are less likely to receive help. This came from an article on NAMI in 2021. Grab a new expectant mother and make sure that they tune into this episode so that we can start to answer some hard-hitting questions, but also tackle and offer some much-needed resources. Joy, I am so excited to have you with me today on this episode of Community Connections.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Absolutely. Can you talk about your work and what that actually entails?
Absolutely. So my name is Joy McAfee, as you know.
Absolutely.
I'm a postpartum doula. I own my own business, Joy the Village Doula, LLC.
I love that.
I have the absolute pleasure and honor of supporting families in the early portions of their parenting journey, the 4th trimester as we call it, and navigating that place and space with them.
Can you talk about what a doula is? I know a couple people have probably heard the word, but they don't actually know what the function of a doula is.
Absolutely. So there are many different types of doulas within our community. There are bereavement doulas, there are grief and loss doulas, full spectrum doulas. There are postpartum doulas and birth doulas as well. The job of a birth doula is to be a mother to the mother. Just really being able to nurture families as they walk through the 4th trimester and all of the adjusting and transitions that time holds, holding space, making place for them, and also being able to just take great care of them and surround them with continuing support and continuing care.
That sounds so important.
Yeah.
Throughout COVID-19, the CDC was reporting that the maternal death rate in African American moms was 3 times higher.
Yeah.
3 times higher than any other group, and then it has been in over 20 years.
Yeah.
That's a large issue. And we know that it stems from some of the basic things around systemic racism and healthcare and being able to have the essentials that you need to have a successful birth, right? But it doesn't take, I think, the shock away from what that really looks like. And especially when you think about that number down by families, right?
Mm-hmm. When I think about those numbers and I think about my experience with serving families during the pandemic, I mean, I started this work serving families during the pandemic because of the great need, because of my own personal experience with navigating the extremely isolating postpartum time and the grief-stricken postpartum time. We don't think about the 4th trimester after bringing a new baby into the world.
That's
we think
powerful.
about the celebration, right? We think about the need for support and comfort during the birth, but we do not think about the long game, right? Which is your postpartum time. You're forever in postpartum. After you have a baby, that's the consistent state in which your body is, in which your body moves and finds its being in, is that postpartum time. And during the pandemic, with there already being so much grief, right? Grieving the normal, grieving our way of being. And then on top of that, grieving the loss of loved ones during the pandemic and the loss of being able to commune with our village, really. Seeing that and understanding that, and then also grieving on top of all of that, all of the things that were prior to bringing a baby into the world, and bringing the baby into the world during such a traumatic time That's a lot of heavy and hard for families to navigate. That's a lot of heavy and hard for birth folks to navigate. And the lack of advocacy, right? Because you couldn't have a birth doula, or you had to choose between a birth doula and a partner being in the hospital with you.
That's not something that I knew.
Yeah, that was absolutely the case in many hospitals. And so navigating that truth and navigating that grief of, I thought this was going to be a time where I would be surrounded by support. I thought this was going to be a time where my baby would be able to attach and attune to myself, attach and attune to my village, and to have that taken away. It absolutely sucks a lot of the sacred out of a time that is supposed to be fully celebrated and fully sacred for many families. So it does make sense in my mind that the mortality, the Black maternal mortality rate absolutely increased during that time, not just because of COVID, but also those other factors I just mentioned as well.
I just want to share another interesting statistic from the World Health Organization, that the maternal mortality rate is defined as the definition of a woman while pregnant within 42 days of the end of pregnancy, regardless of how long the pregnancy lasted or any cause related to the pregnancy. And I think so many people believe that, hearing someone die during childbirth or subsequently after, they believe that it's either a complication of the birth,
right,
or something going on with the child. Nobody thinks about, well, what happened when you got home, or were you listened to when you were in labor?
Right.
Were your nurses able to believe your pain tolerance and talk to you about things that you need? And then just, of course, trying to assess what that experience looks like for first-time parents.
Absolutely.
Right? Sometimes we get in situations that we don't know what we need until we need it.
Exactly.
So how do you know in advance to ask for such things? You talked about creating Joy the Village Doula during COVID-19,
Yes.
and because of the need that was there.
Right.
Not only your journey as a mom. Can you speak a little bit about that? Initially, how this work not only came to be, but what that meant for you?
Absolutely. It's an honor to be able to share my truth and my narrative and my experience as well. But that does come with some heavy and hard, right? And that heavy and hard being just speaking the words when you've held, your truth in and walked in that truth for so long. But I'm finding in this work that so many families are absolutely empowered by my truth and my narrative, and absolutely empowered and feel incredibly honored to be able to be surrounded by my particular brand of support. But my experience was during my pregnancy with my first son, we were not expecting that we were going to get pregnant as quickly as we did. We were newlyweds, and because of my parents' own fertility journey, we thought we were going to be on our own long-term fertility journey. That was not so. And so being prepared to bring a new life into the world, and not also being financially prepared, nor also knowing what I needed when I needed it, and also coming into my own as a wife, and now coming into my own as a mother. It was just a lot. It was a lot.
I'm sure, like many,
Absolutely.
feel, a very common feeling for
Yes.
so many, and probably very overwhelming time, a very exciting time, but extremely overwhelming with such transition going on.
Most definitely. And not just that adjusting, and not just the fear of the unknown, but also not being made aware that although from a previous traumatic incident in my young adulthood, which included a burn and a long hospital stay and a long healing time, I was not told that traumatic event made me even more susceptible, or even more at high risk for postpartum mood disorder, postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety. I don't know that that's a narrative that's being shared in our community. If you have past trauma that you're healing, or mental health diagnosis, that absolutely makes us high risk for postpartum mood disorder, postpartum anxiety, postpartum depression, perinatal mood disorder, perinatal depression, perinatal anxiety, which happens to manifest itself during pregnancy. We don't know that any of those things are on the horizon, or that there's a potential to be walking in that truth or navigating that truth, while also navigating the adjusting and transitioning and all of the learning parts, the moving parts that come with becoming a mother or a parent. Really being able to walk through that and have that understanding, being surrounded by my father with his support, being able to be surrounded by other families with their support, being able to understand what was needed, what I needed, and really be able to be poured into. It helped me understand from that being poured into how to pour into families as well. And that's what made me start this work, being able to pour into families and take good care of families the way that I was surrounded by support, and that knowing that that feeling, that heavy and hard, doesn't last always, and that you absolutely get to walk in and be surrounded by support and be called beloved, be worthy of benefit just because in that very important time.
I love that. Can you talk to me about what sacred postpartum support is and what that looks like, that you get to actually walk out with amazing families every day?
Absolutely, and it's, again, such an honor. It looks like my particular brand of support, as sacred as it is, looks like intuitive care. It looks like listening, leaning into families, really hearing and seeing them, surrounding them with support, lavishing them with love, which can include so many different things. Absolutely offering them reframes, emotional support, being able to walk in and know what's needed, but also ask what a family's goals are. It's the both and in each situation. It's being able to speak to the elephant in the room that might be uncomfortable. It's also being able to offer rest, and in whatever phase and state that looks like for each individual. It looks like being able to comfort families with a meal. It looks like being able to affirm families. It looks like being able to ask them, what is sacred to them? What does support feel like to them? What are they envisioning? And being able to bring that in the best way that as possible.
Anyone who has ever been around new parents and a new baby, I think, quickly realizes that the shift goes from, hey, how are you, to where's the baby? You guys didn't bring the baby? And so I think to hear you discuss not only goals for the family, but also intuitively to think about what they need and to talk about difficult things when it's like there's so many different things happening and nobody's probably even asking me, have I eaten today, or how am I doing, or have I gotten a nap?
Right. Everybody wants to smell a baby.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to hold a baby.
How about the person that got the baby here, the people that got the baby here? We could use a check-in, family, friends.
Absolutely, for sure. And I remind families, especially when I'm interviewing with them, to confirm that having someone else come from a complete stranger come into your home is so incredibly foreign, but also needed, because how often do we prioritize hospitality over healing? So often, especially as new parents. Absolutely. And so really letting families know, when I come in, you're not prioritizing my being hospitable to me, you're prioritizing your own healing, and it's so incredibly important.
Can you talk to me and share with me about your holistic approach to this work?
Yes, absolutely. So I have found, especially over having multiple conversations with my partner, my husband, with his own experience navigating my postpartum depression and navigating our fourth trimester, what's needed, like what are we seeing, and talking to so many other friends and community members and family members as well, asking what's needed. And from those conversations has really just evolved this truth that fathers and support folks and other people that are surrounding birth folks in the postpartum time are kind of left in the dust, wondering what to do, wondering how to support, wondering how to lavish love. Like, what does sacred support look like for families that are navigating the fourth trimester with little information or with so many changes on the horizon, and with wanting to keep things, private and just between your partner and yourself, what does that look like? So my holistic approach is making sure that fathers know, and that partners know, that male partners know their superpower, that the vibration, the frequency, the vibration of their vocal cords is a superpower that they offer their partner and their baby, that their hormones and their ability to balance their hormones is a superpower. Absolutely. That their ability to attach and attune to their own baby and their own baby's needs and offer skin on skin without the smell of milk, of human milk, because that's true of a birth person, a lactating birth person, but not true of a support person.
That's true.
And absolutely, those are all superpowers that they bring to the table, reminding male support folks and husbands and fathers of that incredibly important role that they play, and affirming them in that role is absolutely part of my holistic approach.
Can you talk about some of the services that you offer to some of these families, what your day-to-day kind of looks like for somebody that may be interested in not only reaching out or says, I might not have thought I needed a doula prior to now, but listening to this, I think I can add somebody to this program of having our baby, and afterwards, like you said, the fourth trimester, to kind of make sure that we are off on the right foot.
Absolutely. So I offer many different packages to families because there are many different budgets, and this work is so incredibly important. It's a birthright to be able to be surrounded by a village of support. So some of the things that I offer are making meals, because meals are so comforting, and why not take that off the plate of new parents? I also do laundry. I also do dishes. I also sanitize bottles and pumping supplies. I also teach parents, so I do a lot of infant care education, teaching parents how to properly store human milk, teaching parents where to get human milk if it's needed, if they're having a hard time producing or waiting for their own milk to come in. I also provide families with the opportunity to rest. That is the main job, facilitating rest, and in the many forms that looks. That might look like you get to get a shower today. That might look like taking a nap. That might look like watching trashy TV, because it's one less thing that you have to worry about attaching and attuning and figuring out. It's just a place where you can be, because you're worthy of that. Also being able to affirm families. As I said before, emotional support is really my biggest, the biggest thing that I offer in my particular brand of support, as someone who is trained in postpartum mood disorder, and also as someone who's trained in trauma-informed care. And so those are the big things that I offer to families, along with supporting their own infant feeding journey, whether that includes lactating and nursing, or if that includes bottle feeding and using formula. And it's just a joy of my heart to offer so many different types of support, including, that's all for in-home, what the day-to-day looks like in-home. Now, there's also virtual support services that are available to families, which allows families to receive affirmations and infant care education. It allows families to be able to receive lots of opportunities to speak to share their narrative, and also process their birth journey and find the coping skills needed for this big time of adjustment and transition.
I think that's wonderful for people that are not only in the area, but also for new parents that may be a little hesitant about having someone coming in and out of the space. We can still have the support virtually without going, okay, now, we may have a limited space, right? And go, it's not easy for everybody to move around, or we may have not even started to settle in our new space just yet. So we don't have everything set up, but we're able to have Joy the Village Doula support us virtually as we kind of try to navigate what the next couple weeks, months to years start to look like.
Absolutely. And sometimes, I mean, truth be told, it can be challenging to navigate a new person coming into your space for all those reasons, including if you have support, a village of support already, they may feel that their toes are being stepped on. They may feel that someone coming into the space is taking away from their opportunity to pour into their loved one in the best way that they know how, and don't want that competition. And in a case like that, what better way to use virtual support as an option to be able to receive the evidence-based care information that you may need for infant care education or for your own healing, but also a great way to just be able to have someone to speak your narrative to and hear and affirm you also.
I was perusing your social media and I saw that you were publicizing Black Mothers Thriving, the support group coming up. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. I'm so incredibly excited to be able to offer this incredibly sacred, brave space to women of color, to Black women specifically, that are looking for places where they can hear, where they can have mirrors, where they can see themselves in their peers, where they can ask questions, where they can absolutely speak to what their triumphs are and maybe what some things that they may be wrestling with. A space where people can congregate and really be in community after 2 years of not being able to have such community and feeling so incredibly isolated. Want to offer this up to the community. Black Moms Thriving is the brainchild of Dr. Mima Fant and myself. With me being able to be a co-facilitator with Dr. Mima Fant. Dr. Mima Fant is an incredible perinatal health, mental health therapist.
Wow.
That is offering the opportunity for Black mothers to come together and speak their truth to each other, and also receive coping skills, also receive, on top of community, an opportunity to separate from their children as there is childcare available, which I will be offering childcare while they are in session or while they are in group together.
That's so wonderful to not only be able to fully participate, but not to have to mentally worry about what are they doing. I hope they're behaving. I hope they're not overwhelming Miss Joy. And it's like, she's fine. She's fine. The kids are fine.
Yes.
Just soak up and get what you need from the support group.
Absolutely. That support group there will be light, nourishing food. So on top of being emotionally and mentally nourished with community, you'll also be physically nourished as well. And then the childcare is actually right next to the room in which families will be meeting. Which participants will be meeting. So we'll be meeting once a week in Egan for that particular group. And there are so many opportunities to talk and so many opportunities to receive wraparound support and care and hear more about what does it look like to have a postpartum doula. And if your child is older than 6 weeks, older than 8 weeks, older than a couple months old, you're still welcome into the group. We are accepting folks that are up to 2 years postpartum for this group.
So to our viewers that are interested in participating in the Black Mothers Thriving or in the Nest,
yes,
please be sure to not only follow along with Joy the Village Doula on her social media, but also with her website links and the registration links we can provide at the end of this segment, so that we'll have the opportunity to not only stay connected, but also we can share with somebody else in our networks, because who amongst us doesn't know at least one person that's expecting a baby soon?
Absolutely.
Or that has a small child. Can you talk to me about the goal for the Nest and Black Mothers Thriving, not only just from a doula standpoint, but as another woman, seeing as we're in Women's History Month and offering this support? What does that mean to you?
Yes, so it's really a revolutionary offering. Speaking of Women's History Month, historically we've been told to just pull yourself up by your bootstraps and get through the postpartum period of the 4th trimester. And this is revolutionary in the way that you are absolutely, as a woman, you have the right to be surrounded by a loving community that will walk you through this. That you don't have to pull yourself up by your bootstraps and just figure it out. And so that's so incredibly exciting. As a woman, to be able to see that played out with a group of women, particularly a group of us as Black women, it gives me so much joy and so much comfort to know that that's something that is being offered, that it's changing the game for mothers, for women, in the way that we look at postpartum period, the fourth trimester, as sacred. How do we make that sacred? How do we claim that for ourselves? Absolutely, this support group is the start of that. It's the beginning of that, and I'm so incredibly proud of it.
That is so wonderful. Can you talk not only from your own personal experience, but some of the symptoms that you have seen or encountered yourself with postpartum depression, or like you talked about perinatal depression? Because I think so many of us are around people that we may know and love in our networks, and we don't know what we're looking at.
Absolutely.
And we don't know when would be the time to say, I think we might need to get some support around this.
Yes, well said. Thank you for asking that question. That's incredibly important. One of the most troubling factors for Black women as it relates to perinatal mental health, as it relates to postpartum depression or anxiety, or postpartum anxiety or postpartum mood disorder, it looks different on each of us, because we all carry our heavy and hard differently. And so sometimes that can look like isolating. Well, postpartum time is very isolating in and of itself, or can be very isolating in and of itself, because you're navigating so many new things and figuring out all the transitions. So that's tricky. And sometimes it can look like just the absolute exhaustion. Just not being able to find joy in many things, really having a hard time as well with sleeping or resting, even when you have the opportunity, noticing that as well. Also, the overall outlook of a situation. When you have challenges that you're navigating, and we all will find things that are challenging in this new place and space of raising a child, really not being able to see a positive outlook, not being able to receive education or fact, really finding ourselves stuck in all the ways that things won't work. And I want folks to know that when we find ourselves in those spaces or places, if that's the narrative that folks are walking through, or the truth that people are finding, that there is hope, that there's absolutely a light at the end of the tunnel, that sometimes that can look like finding additional support through perinatal mental health professionals. Sometimes that may require medication. Sometimes that may be needing to increase certain vitamins or minerals to the diet. Sometimes that may mean changing the diet up. It can, there's so many different ways in which those heavy and hard PMADs, as they're called, postpartum mood and depression, postpartum mood disorder and depression, can show up in folks. And if we're finding those things, there are so many resources, community resources available. Postpartum Support Minnesota is another great resource to reach out to. They have one-on-one peer support. They have incredible community resources for all different types of families and all different types of folks that are in need. One piece that's also not often talked about is postpartum mood disorder, or PMADs, as I just discussed, can also appear in partners, in support folks. And that's often something that's not discussed or not looked at, but it definitely needs to be noted and needs to be awareness. It needs to be amplified, that truth.
I think that actually is really important and something that we don't often consider. I think when we see couples that are early on in their pregnancies, will say things like they're gaining sympathy weight, or, they're experiencing some of the same cravings or things like that, but we don't really talk seriously about what that transition is actually like for them, and to witness not only on a physical day-to-day level, but also on an emotional level, because you're watching your partner change to bring your child into the world, and then their hormones and all these other things are starting to shift. And then by the time you hit the 4th trimester, you may not recognize the person that you have at the end of that experience. And then trying to navigate that with your new baby, I'm sure is not easy.
Absolutely.
Or often considered.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it all should also be added as well that multiple tearful days. I mean, baby blues in the first couple weeks because of the fluctuation of hormones is to be expected. But after that 2-week period, if we're noticing a hopeless outlook or multiple tearful days, I mean, more than three tearful days in a week, that's really a great warning sign to start looking for some community resources and support to wrap around or offer additional care to a family that may be experiencing some postpartum mood disorder or anxiety or depression.
If you can, I'll have you look right in that camera and provide not only a word of encouragement to somebody that may be struggling or on the fence about considering support.
Right.
And then I will allow you to offer also a call to action to us so that those of us that are part of people's networks going forward can help support them.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. I want, if you're feeling hopeless, if you're feeling helpless, if you're feeling disconnected from loved ones, from support, by all means, seek support, reach out to resources, do not turn down help. Ask those that care about you most and reach into yourself to seek community resources that feel sacred to you, that actually hold you in a way that you need to be held and see you in a way that you need to be seen. If that happens to be the support group that we talked about today, would love to have you, would love to surround you with support and help you see what the sacred is in this important time. For those that are interested in stepping up in providing support or simply want to amplify this work of community support for those that are navigating the 4th trimester in their postpartum time, we ask for you to consider offering up a financial donation or giving a financial gift to our mutual aid request for creating access to this postpartum, to both of the postpartum support groups, both the Nest and Black Moms Thriving. You can do that by going to Venmo and entering in Hatch Life MN at Venmo. That would be an incredible way to offer some scholarships to families that maybe can't afford or don't have insurance, to be able to have some access to sacred support and healing and begin their healing journey while they navigate the 4th trimester. And we thank you for those that have already contributed and those that are interested or that will be contributing their financial gifts to this incredibly sacred work. Thank you.
Thank you, Joy. My last question for you is, how do we best support people going forward as they navigate this amazing, not only experience and time in their lives, but the journey ahead? Because 18 years is a long time.
It is. It absolutely is. It is a very long time. I would start by early on in the 4th trimester, carve out some time, make space, hold space for all of the gamut of emotions and all of the truths. Sit down and really see someone, hear them. Don't be so quick to offer up your opinion or offer up what folks should do or advice. Simply hold space and a listening ear to what someone may be experiencing during that time. Do not come empty-handed to a home that is navigating the 4th trimester. Bring a meal. Ask them what they love, what offers them comfort. Wash some clothes. There's so much laundry associated with a baby.
That's true.
And so much laundry associated with a lactating person. So much laundry associated with two sweaty parents. Wash some clothes. They will thank you. Washing dishes is also a wonderful labor of love for a family navigating the fourth trimester. If they have a pet, take that pet for a walk. If they have siblings or younger children, do a special activity or take those children out to a special outing, just you and them, to create some place and space and holding place and space for little ones that are also finding themselves in adjusting to a new period in their life. And then after a while, when times, when we're past that 6 months to a year and the family finds themselves settled, check in. Make a call asking them how things are going, letting them know that you are proud of them, letting them know that you see where they have come from the beginning of their navigating that journey all the way to where they are now. Continuously affirm them and continuously lavish them with love.
Thank you so much for those amazing tidbits and for the work that you do.
Thank you. Thank you.
It has been a pleasure speaking to you not only about your work as a village doula, but also your experience as a mom.
Yeah.
All the best to you going forward.
Thank you.
Special thank you to Joy and her amazing team, Dr. Font, as you all not only launched the Black Mothers support group, but also the Nest will be starting this coming month as well. So if anyone is interested in being a part of that, we will gratefully provide the links for registration as well as inquiry to her services going forward. Unfortunately, that is all the time that we have for this episode of Community Connections. As always, I am your host, Anna Orr, and I look forward to chatting again with you soon.